Hi, everyone. Welcome to The Lift. It's Tyra Sellers, and I'm here with
Linda LeBlanc. Hi, everybody.
I'm also super excited to introduce our special guest. This is our wonderful, amazing friend and colleague, Dr. Nasiah Cirincione-Ulezi.
Hello, everyone.
Yes. So we're here to chat about Chapter 4, the impact of culture on supervisory relationships, and really that main theme that within effective supervision relationships, particularly the supervisor has a burden to recognize, make some space for, and in fact, celebrate the impact of culture on relationships, and really taking an active role in that. So I'm going to introduce our lovely guest today, and then we're going to jump right into some of the content. We're going to hear some information from Nasiah, things that she's doing. So Dr. Nasiah Cirincione-Ulezi is a BCBA and an LBA in Illinois. She has dual master's degrees, one in special education from the University of Illinois at Chicago, and one in educational leadership from the American College of Education. So she was busy for a while. In addition, she earned a doctorate degree in education from Loyola. She is a graduate of the Infant Studies Specialist Program at the Erickson Institute of Chicago, which I just think is phenomenal. Truckloads of experience, special educator, clinician with experience, working with a wide range of individuals from tiny little babies all the way through adulthood. She was an educational administrator, a professor of special education. I happen to know that she also is proficient in spoken word, poetry, and other theatric endeavors, which is fantastic. And right now, she's the CEO and founder of Ulezi LLC. Also serves as a court-appointed special advocate for children, which is phenomenal. Thank you for giving back to our kids that are in the foster care system. A board member for the Illinois Association for Behavior Analysis. And I have to just read this quote from your bio, Nasiah. It says that you are a champion for diversity, equity, and inclusion, and you are deeply committed to using your skills and experiences paired with the science of applied behavior analysis to assist, uplift, uplift and transform the lives of people that you support and serve in positive and meaningful ways. And I can attest that you definitely live that. So welcome and thank you and hi.
Hey, thank you. You know, I just couldn't be more pleased to be here with you all. So thank you so much for the invitation. I greatly appreciate it. Those bios that people give me just sound so good. And I just, I mean, can I say that? They just sound so good, but it has been 30 years. It took me a long time to get there. I have one correction. I am a licensed behavior analyst only in Texas. In Texas. Illinois does not have licensure yet. It's something we're working towards. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you.
And Miss Tyra, it has been a year. It has just been a year, and it's coming on a year that I first had the opportunity to meet you two lovely ladies.
Yes, you really have brightened our professional lives. The first time we got to work together, Nasiah, and really the first time we met was when our mutual colleague, Patricia Wright, introduced us and just mentioned what a fantastic person you were and what a wonderful asset you would be to the panel we were putting together on professional relationships for the Women in Behavior Analysis Conference. And we had so much fun doing that. And by the way, we crushed it.
We did.
But, it's a real testament to the fact that your peers can be your best asset, your mentors. You can learn together. And just in that year, I feel like it's been wonderful to get to know you and to admire the great work you're doing. And I just want to collaborate with you all the times that I get to.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Let me tag something else here that we don't do enough of. And it is exactly what you two have done for me, what I see you doing for others in the field, and what Patricia Wright did. You know, I contributed a piece of literature to the field. It's been a little over a year ago about barriers to leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I spoke about in that work, in that manuscript, was the need for not only mentorship, but sponsorship.
Mm-hmm.
So people that will kind of mentor you and then speak to your skills when you're not in the room. And that is so what Patricia Wright did, and it was by no prompting of mine. I love Patricia Wright dearly. We are incredibly like-minded when it comes to what our values and work is, but I didn't prompt that from her, so I greatly appreciate it. And I know in this year, I have had some amazing support. As you mentioned, Tyra, I do sit on the board for my state ABAI organization,
Mm-hmm.
and you graciously came to do some group mentorship with our DEI board, and I am incredibly grateful for that. I know people are still talking about it, and I know, Linda, you have been amazing support to some of our early career practitioners. I know you are doing a lot of research mentorship with them. I know you have done a lot of presentation mentorship, especially with WEBA, with a couple of our early career members on the ILABA board. So thank you.
Well, you are so welcome. It is, it's an exciting time in our field. And for those who want to put some time and energy to supporting diversity, equity, inclusion, and letting fantastic, talented people have opportunities, and building us as a field, making us strong, there's good stuff we can be doing. And in fact, a lot of it's happening, and you're doing a lot of it. And I appreciate your thanks, but I want to hear about what your new company is doing, because I've heard exciting things about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, enough about us. Let's hear about you, Nasiah.
I will gladly share. It's actually, I have a few different projects underway. One of them I gave birth to, my baby. I gave birth to Pivot to Inclusion. We're coming up on the year anniversary, and that was with my colleague, Scott Herbst, and it's a DEI company. And it really was kind of an outgrowth of everything that disrupted our own behavior analytic community over a year ago. We talked and we said, we need to do something. This is fertile ground for some change. So we created Pivot to Inclusion, and we have had the absolute pleasure of working with ABA organizations that provide services primarily to children on the autism spectrum. So we're providing them with tools to become more equitable in their practice, in their hiring, in their onboarding, in the way they deliver services. So more equitable, more inclusive, and more diverse. And this is what we move from. We take on clients who are committed to creating a more equitable environment as a long-term endeavor. So we don't come in and do a training. It is ongoing, and it has been absolutely wonderful. The companies we've had the pleasure of working with are very pleased, and we are exceptionally pleased with the progress they're making and their commitment to their values of becoming more equitable, inclusive, and diverse. Now I have another project, and this project is an outgrowth again of just the shift in the field. You know, what my own personal journey has brought me to is, at this stage, I'm a 30-year practitioner. That's a long time. What I have managed to do in my decades of work is accumulate some experience, accumulate some tools, and some information. So I'm ready to pass the torch and share it. So myself and two other colleagues, Georgiana Koyama, she is one of, I believe, probably 8 Black BCBAs in the UK,
Yep.
and our own Melody Sylvan have partnered and created our organization called Shaping Leaders. And it is an organization centered around developing and promoting BIPOC leaders within the behavior analytic community. So we're excited about it. We haven't launched our website yet. It's coming, but we are formally organized as a company. So watch out for us. And again, we are Shaping Leaders. And what you will see, the body of work is really going to be to develop leaders who have an understanding of some of what I believe we're going to talk about today, understanding the foundational principles of supervision and mentorship is a relationship. And supervision and mentorship requires leadership skills. So watch out for it. I'm really looking forward to sharing more as this company unfolds. And again, my other company, Pivot to Inclusion, as we continue to move in the world and do more work.
That is amazing. Nasiah, tell me the name of the second company again, Shaping Leaders?
Shaping Leaders.
Okay,
yes.
Great. And for listeners, Nasiah, you described that it's going to focus on leadership skills for BIPOC or BIPOC. So just in case people are not in the know, that is focusing on individuals that are Black, that are of color, Indigenous. And so just in case, and that is tremendous. And we definitely need to be hearing from BIPOC or BIPOC people. We need them in leadership positions. We need them moving this world forward in an amazing way. So thank you all three for your work on that.
Absolutely.
I love what you are doing because you saw some discomfort, some problem, and turned it into opportunity in a very forward-looking way and just start building. And there really is a reason why that's the first word of the title of our book. We've got to build it. We got to build that world we want to live in, make our environment, change it, shape it, change and shape each other and build each other up through those relationships. And I think that you are setting people up to do that with both of those efforts, particularly using your lived experience and your expertise in diversity, equity, and inclusion. So let's talk a little bit about some of the content in the chapter. We introduce each chapter with a quote, and I love the quote for this chapter. Would you be willing to read that for us?
Absolutely. It will be my pleasure to. Here it goes. Instead of denying these differences, she accepts and explores them. She opens herself to the lives of these others, allows herself to imaginatively feel their conflicts and pain, and uses this empathy and openness as pathways to explore possible points of connection. Anna Louise Keating.
Thank you so much. I just want to give a shout out to this author who is a professor of multicultural women's and gender studies at Texas Women's University in Denton. And I want to also point out to listeners and readers that the quotes that we chose for this book mostly were not behavior analysts, and that is because behavior analysts to date haven't been doing a tremendous amount of work in some of these areas, but also as that additional indicator that we are always continuing to learn, and we can benefit from reaching outside of our field, from listening to poets, artists, women and gender studies scholars. So thank you so much for reading that, Nasiah.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Well, let's also give a shout out to the person who found that quote, who is Dr. Shala Alai, our co-author, our colleague in this whole book fabulousness, and she'll be joining us on a future episode. But she really wanted to have Nasiah be our guest on this chapter because she respects you so much, Nasiah. And
I heard truly. Oh, I appreciate
really
that.
She's a special person, as are you. And again, there's a lot, many years, many decades of experience, and also a real openness to the human experience.
Yes.
And that's something that really shines forth about Shala, that she listens when she listens, as do you. And she is, when she encounters you, she is attending to and actively trying to explore the important thing about you.
Yes.
And that has such a powerful, positive experience on the person that you are connecting with. And you really do that in such a powerful way, Nasiah.
Oh, thank you. You know, this is just wonderful. Have me back anytime. Have me back. This is doing just so much for me. I appreciate it.
Well, you know, one thing that Shala really sprinkled throughout the entire book, but is part of the foundation of this chapter, is that reminder that difference, diversity, may bring discomfort. I mean, it certainly brings discomfort to the individuals that don't share the position of power. And unfortunately, they often are required to sit in silence with that discomfort. It brings discomfort for the individuals who are in a position of power, and they often, and myself included, tend to be a little bit more vocal about being uncomfortable. But Shala does this beautiful transformation that discomfort is a gift. That discomfort is the moment wherein you can recognize you have the opportunity, like the quote says, for a pathway or a point of connection to learn about, to celebrate, to grow, because difference and diversity is beautiful, and that it's worth it to sit in that discomfort, and that the chapter and the information in the book isn't going to be a set of rules or strategies for how to respond to someone who's different than you. Instead, it's a call to action to just throw wide open your arms and be willing to accept and sit in that discomfort, because of all of the amazing things that will come from it. So I wonder, Nasiah, if you can talk a little bit about whether or not that resonates for you, and maybe enhance with your experiences that concept for us.
Absolutely. And I appreciate this chapter so much. And I especially appreciate acknowledging the discomfort in this. Discomfort and the pain, you know, it is real. It is real. I think about the work that all of us are engaging in now around DEI, and it's uncomfortable in very deep and profound ways. It can bring up guilt. It can bring up anger. So when I think about this chapter, it really does invite us to feel that, not run away from it, because we have a tendency to organize our behaviors around those feelings by running, by avoiding. But it invites us to really confront it, reflect on it, and move forward in service to what our values are. This is why, and I've made no secret in promoting the book, you know, because it is the first book that I have come across in the field. And I've been in a lot of classes, I've taken a lot of classes, I've taught a lot of classes. This is the first one that really taps into what I believe our field needs to move forward. first thing, and I know we're going to talk about this, I may be jumping a little, that reflection piece, that reflection, turning inward to think about our own thinking. Powerful. So I love chapter 4. Love the whole book, but I'm loving chapter 4 because it is calling us, inviting us to be brave, step into a brave space. I'm not sure everyone is present to the fact that when we speak out against social injustice, when we are really humble, practicing with humility, it does take some bravery, particularly in our field, because there will be times when we'll stand alone. We might be the only one. So it does resonate with me, Tyra, resonates with me deeply. This chapter in particular, I'm very much in alignment with my personal and professional values.
That, that idea of self-reflection, it's a theme throughout the book, but ever so much more important in this chapter, because if you don't, many of us in an unusual way almost don't fully understand all about our own culture, because it's just it's the background of everything we do, and we live in it. And it's not until we start to encounter some different things that we start to realize, oh, wait a minute, this isn't how the world is. This is how my world has been. And so self-reflection, understanding your own culture, looking for differences, positive differences, interesting differences with other people, I think that does have to start with self-reflection, plus a little bit of that, hey, wake up, you probably haven't been noticing some stuff, and square your shoulders, get to noticing, be okay with the fact that you haven't quite done it yet. Now start. It's always that first next step. So self-reflection, I do think, is an important part of it. And also just notice.
See, this is why I love talking to you ladies. This brings back my training as a early childhood special educator, this piece of just noticing. So in our field, our amazing field, there is a tendency to do something. Get out there and just do something. When I was trained as an early childhood special educator, I remember the phrase, now I hope I get it right. I had a professor tell me, don't just do something, Nasiah, be there. Don't just do something, be there. Powerful. Just that fact of really being there. It's a skill, really, because of the way we kind of engage in our culture. We're always doing, just being there and observing and being present is something I believe that needs to be developed and taught, because not everybody knows how to do it. And then in this chapter, just that focus on reflection really builds the muscle and sets the occasion to do that. When we start engaging in this reflection, what reflection is, that pause between the stimulus and response. It's a stop. And then what is it going to do? It is going to help us not respond out of habit, but really start thinking about what it is we're doing. So absolutely, reflection, number one, especially in terms of equity, diversity, and inclusion. Everybody wants to get to that terminal product of, we want more of this, we want more of that. Let's focus in on self as individual self as in our own organization, self as in it starts at home first, not out there and here.
Agree.
Absolutely. And I think that flows so nicely into another sort of foundational theme of this chapter. and the entire book. And indeed, our push to encourage folks to think about supervision as a relationship that is bidirectional. And that is the idea that in your self-reflection and in your pausing and being present, there ought to be some degree of letting go. This relationship with your trainees, with your supervisees, with your students should not be predicated on domination, on dominating them, on being in or maximizing this position of power that you have. It should not be directive to the maximum. I mean, clearly there's some amount of direction in terms of I'm inviting you to learn about this thing or take this chance with me, but that it really should be collaborative and bidirectional. It should be, as Barnes-Holmes says, a shared journey, right? A shared journey of exploration. And if you are filling up all of the space with your supervisoryness, you are not making room to take the lead. And I think also, Nasiah, I bet you that if you think back to your training in infancy work and working with families, you know, letting the child and letting the parents take the lead, and then just like your second endeavor, shaping leaders, creating successes by arranging the environment, that falls right into this. So, you know, like sit down, shut up, move over, watch, listen, and then engage, I think is a central theme.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Let me just speak to that a minute, because this is a powerful, I think, learning opportunity possibly for those listening. That idea of stepping into space with children and with families and really taking a step back. You know, one thing that I do know, without a doubt, behavior analysts are some of the smartest people I've ever met. Truly, it's you have to be, to pass the exam, you have to be smart. This is the thing. The position calls for wisdom. And in my wisdom, and that's beyond being smart, it's not the same thing. So let me just drop a gem and break that down. So there's sometimes I will work with a child or work with the family, and in my wisdom, you know, I say to myself, Nasiah, you have an answer, you have a answer, not the answer. But guess what? Right in this space and time, what would be more valuable is if space is created for the answer to come from the child or the parent. What that looks like, it may take a little bit longer.
It's collaborative.
That's it. It may not, you know, be in my timeline, but it's sustainable, it's meaningful, and it's valid.
And it's brought about by natural contingencies and then strengthened and supported, reinforced by natural contingencies.
Yes, yes.
Love
lasting that. Behavioral change. That is it. And again, the chapter speaks to that. I think there's a way of being in our field that kind of speaks to, you know, we have to know it. I fell into the trap, you know, I have to have the answer. Not true. I do not have to have, and what that has given me, just embracing that I don't have to know, has freed me up to say this: I don't know. I don't know. And when I don't know, it's not fatal. That means that cracks the door open for us to become curious and find an answer together.
I think that's an important thing to talk about, because it is certainly a call to behave differently, to notice these things. Many people who've never really noticed cultural differences and what have you before, it's uncomfortable for them. And in the beginning, you're not going to be very good at it. You don't know. That's the whole point. You're endeavoring to learn. And if you do come at it from that hierarchical approach, that's a threat that you don't know. I really love that we have made a shift from cultural competence, which I'm pretty sure I don't have. And I don't even get to play in that ball game, to things like cultural humility and cultural responsiveness, because I can do something with both of those. I get it, I don't have to be afraid to be culturally humble. I know I'll be a failure at cultural competence, but I'm going to keep trying. And part of how I get there is to be culturally responsive. So I love that, really, that our language, which is such a powerful tool for how we think, opens the door to get away from, you don't have to know everything. You have to be open to learn about it and be responsive to it. That's the gold ring. That's what we're trying for. And it can eliminate some of that avoidance and reluctance and anxiety that would come with, well, I don't want to ask a question about your culture because maybe you're going to think that means I'm judging you. I can just be honest and authentic and say, I'm curious, I'm interested, what's your culture been like? And I'll be happy to tell you about Cajun folk. We're pretty awesome too, to make it more of a sharing experience takes away some of that jeopardy for people who might be a little bit new to this.
Yes. And I so love that, Linda. It really does. And the gift of chapter 4 to me, what it gave me was really more of an understanding of the responsiveness. Now, I have been talking a lot in the past several months about the humility piece, which is incredibly important. But this responsive piece is also such a wonderful enhancement, supplement to cultural humility. When I think of cultural responsiveness, what I immediately go to is listening to what individuals across identities are saying about their culture, not imposing. And I think going back to cultural competence, because I still see people kind of using cultural competence, cultural humility, and cultural responsiveness synonymously as the same, but they are different. And that competence piece, which has really been around, I want to say for the last maybe 30 years, the idea of cultural competence training that really denotes kind of that discrete beginning and end to understanding culture, which you're exactly right. Who can achieve that?
I mean, how can you even master your own culture, let alone someone else's, and then all of the intersections? Forget about it.
Forget about it. It's not. And that would leave me, the idea of being competent in somebody's identity culture is overwhelming. And it would leave me like, I don't know this because I don't. But the humbleness and responsiveness, I think you said it, Linda, cracks the door open for that healthy curiosity, to ask questions, to stop and listen, which again, it goes back to that sustaining. And it feels to me just more respectful, more engaging, more comfortable.
For me, a key piece of culturally responsive behavior in supervision means that not only am I attending to, but I'm also reflecting on and incorporating information and changing my own behavior in response. And so that is a key piece for me.
Yeah,
it is. And I can remember Shala saying this in one of our super fun, let's write a book weekend. We like have snacks and good ideas and people we like. One of the things she said was that she had encountered some literature and guidance that, if you want to get on this path to just being like a more culturally well-rounded, knowledgeable person, you probably should at least try to get to know at least 5 people from different cultures than your own. And it's multiple exemplar training in a way. And who knows just like anything, who knows what the right number of exemplars are going to be. But you kind of begin to see all of these points of potential difference, and the fact that almost nothing's dichotomous, it's a continuum. You just haven't yet seen enough points along that gradient to recognize that the things you've seen don't happen to be the 2 end points, it's this way or that way. And that really struck me about you can actually behave in ways not to be a voyeur, but to build relationships with people and get to know what you can about their culture and experience as a way of helping to change your own definition of what culture means and the breadth of human culture.
Yes, I love that. I love that, Linda. Because I've never heard that put together before, the breadth of human culture. Because there is that thread of humanity in all this that extends far beyond the topography of what we look like. So I so appreciate that.
Yeah. And I remember having that conversation, Linda, and then us talking about yes, and you can't just be a tourist or a collector. I can't say, well, I clearly am culturally competent because I have a friend named Nasiah, and Nasiah happens to be Black. That's not it. It's that you really have to open up and be vulnerable and be there to learn about mistakes you've made and how you can be better and how other people walk through the world, how knowing about that can enhance your own life. And I mean, we know if companies have more diverse workforces, they have better cultures, they have better earning, right? You're going to get more ideas. Everything is better when it's multifaceted. But I love that idea. And I also, I wonder, Nasiah, if you can chat a little bit about we listed some characteristics of a supervisor who is likely engaging in culturally responsive supervisory practices. Things like continually assessing and understanding their own culture, because as we've said, it starts with you. You are the common denominator in every experience as you walk through your path. As Linda said, learning from and appreciating other cultures and a number of other things. Are there any characteristics in there that you want to highlight? And also, girl, what did we miss? What are some that we should add to the list?
I think the list is pretty comprehensive. It's an amazing list. The book is amazing. This chapter is a must. What I will say, what I want to highlight is the piece that is threaded throughout the book, bidirectionality. Just understanding a supervisor really embracing the supervisee is someone, an individual who is bringing gifts to that relationship. And in bidirectionality, really, and I got this phrase from a veteran, one of my mentors from many years ago. She was speaking in terms of parent relationships with practitioners, and practitioners must learn to, she termed it, share the inconvenience. Okay? So I invite supervisors in the spirit of bidirectionality to share inconvenience. Don't let the supervisees shoulder all the inconveniences that can kind of manifest in a supervisor-supervisee relationship. Simple things. Where are we going to meet? Okay. Hey, if it's more convenient and we want to meet in person, where would you like to meet? Simple things like that create and crack the door open for powerful connection in that relationship. So that is something that I'd like to highlight for everyone, creating and maintaining and practicing with bidirectionality in mind.
I love that. And if in fact you approach it as a relationship and you're endeavoring to get to know this person, it's going to make you uncomfortable and maybe even angry when you see that your supervisee is maybe completely inadvertently, but is subject to an inequity in some way. I think as I began to encounter younger Black behavior analysts who were interested in research, very capable, and felt like they had not really had the instruction and mentoring to be able to contribute to the research game, I was pissed.
Yes. Yes.
What in the world? How did people not see the beautiful capabilities of these, and the ones I'm encountering are women, and give them opportunities to learn and shine? And so if it, that's the thing, like, you better be ready. If you are going to think about this as relationships, you're going to see those inequities, and then you better do something. Maybe you're going to speak up. Maybe you're going to create an organization or an effort to make some change. But that's going to be part of it if you really think about it. As a relationship, you're going to be invested.
Absolutely. Can I just share something really quick here? I have to speak to it. Last year, Linda, when we met after the conference, we did our debrief to answer questions that participants had posed. And I remember we were doing the debrief, going through the questions, and I had shared within the group, that I hadn't, and I've made that public. I haven't had a lot of mentors, not a lot of sponsors. And I looked at your face during that meeting, and it said it all. I could see it, that you were visible, you were hurt by it. And I could see the question, and I have watched you. I didn't know you before last year, but I know I've watched you this year. And I've heard from some of the early career practitioners, people of color, that you are actively mentoring. So that had to be, you saw it, you felt the discomfort, but what did you do? And I appreciate you took actionable steps to contribute to changing. So I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to do it. And thank you for being thankful. And thanks to all of them for, they're putting effort into coming to these experiences and trainings. And, if we really want to see continued change, we just got to figure out where's our place to do our part, and then try to partner with other people to do it. And, this effort for young researchers, it's Baba's initiative. I just happen to have done that a whole lot, and I'm going to, loan them some of my expertise to get this off the ground. But we need to get to the point where maybe there will be more Black researchers publishing in our journals and able to mentor other people. And I'll still do it too, but it's really about kind of building the overall community. And for me, it really was painful to, because I could see this is a loss to our field. It was a loss to these people, and it's a loss to our field, and that ain't cool. So we'll do something.
Yes, and it definitely has been done. And what I see happening now is people are coming together, and there's been a pipeline created. A pipeline. Seeds have been planted for pipeline to leadership, pipeline to cultural change in the field. That's really rooted in what has been shared in the book and in chapter 4 of the book. So I am incredibly excited about that, what I see happening.
I am as well. And it's I've seen a lot of references to, get a seat at the table, but I would invite supervisors, particularly those of dominant culture groups, instead of inviting space at the table, probably what we need to do is let's just break the table. Let's just dismantle the table, make space to build a whole bunch of really beautiful, incredible tables. Because you know what, the table it ain't big enough. Let's just get rid of it. We don't even need a table. Let's just throw down a picnic blanket.
I hear you.
Just go hippie style.
I hear you.
Concert on the lawn. Let's do it.
I love it. I love that. And one other thing that I see happening now, and organizations are doing it across the country, this podcast. Now, we've always had the podcast to varying degrees, but what this is doing, particularly for individuals like me, now I can do a little bit of writing, but my way of knowing, my cultural identity is rooted in an oral tradition.
Yes.
So creating space for me, someone whose way of knowing and demonstrating knowledge is through that oral tradition, is powerful because I can speak it so much better than I can write it. So I think just acknowledging and creating varying types of spaces to share what we know, to share, what we've learned is a powerful contribution to our field.
That is such a beautiful highlight of one. So in chapter 4, there are these learning hotspots, which basically are just sort of overarching topics where if you are not being culturally responsive, you could be setting the relationship up for failure. You could be hurting your
an uh-oh.
Yes, a big uh-oh. But one of them is learning hotspot number 5 is that people communicate in different ways. And that if we from the dominant culture are only valuing our way of communicating, our way of disseminating information, then we are robbing our profession of being able to grow into this wide breadth of more valuable communicative styles. And we're also not developing repertoires that will allow our supervisees and trainees to have enough response variability that they can have good audience control, so that when they are speaking with families or other non-behavior analysts, that they then can draw on these different communication styles. And so I love that you said that. And I learned from my upbringing that oral communication and storytelling is so powerful. And early in my experience in behavior analysis, that got punished. You need to talk and write this way. And it took me a while to kind of come back to wait a minute, I'm not really comfortable with that. I mean, I could do it if you're going to make me, but I don't really love it. And so I'm so glad that you brought that up.
Yes. I bring it up because this is me. I'm a spoken word artist. I like, especially when I get comfortable as I am with the two of you, that's when my authenticity shows up. that's when I can really, powerfully speak to my truth and my lived experience. And I think more people making room for that, however it shows up. For some people, it might be a picture. For some people, drawing a picture. For others, it will be, speaking. But just making room is affirming, because we don't all want to write. And again, my culture, the culture that I come from, comes from an oral tradition, not a written tradition.
I love that.
It. Well, we are getting close to the end of our podcast, and we are going to have you back. I know, it's been so fun.
I don't want to stop.
But let's wrap up with just a few big ideas for people to take away, and maybe we can each give one of them. I think, one, I'm going to give two, because the first big idea is we're awesome. And and I just am so thankful and grateful that I have happened to get to know you. And I think that is something that really opened my eyes of, like, look at this amazing person who's out here doing great stuff. I had zero contact with her. I feel like I know people in this field. Like, sometimes it feels like I know a whole lot of people in this field, and I didn't know you. And I'm so glad that we're having the opportunity to influence each other. And I think that actually is one of the ways to think about this, is assume you don't know a lot, and that it can be a good and exciting journey to get to know people and stories and things about other cultures.
I don't know. There's just too much awesomeness for me to even think straight right now. I guess my big takeaway, my big idea sort of wraps from, especially this chapter, wraps back even to something, Nasiah, that you said about your company pivot to inclusion. And that is the idea that coming to be culturally responsive is a commitment to an effortful but beautiful lifelong process. You need to be in it for the long haul. This is not a sprint. In a way, it's a marathon, and it's probably a relay. We got to rely on each other, because there are times when my legs are going to fail. And so I need to have folks that I can hand off to, and that I can learn from, and that I can just sit back on the grass and watch in all their glory for a while while I kind of re-energize myself. But the idea, particularly when it comes to cultural responsiveness, is that it's lifelong. It's forever. I'm always going to be making mistakes. I'm always going to be having impacts that I didn't intend, but that hurt other people. And I have an opportunity to fix it and learn and do better. And that if I'm open and I can be okay with a little discomfort, that people have so much to teach me as a supervisor. So just my big takeaway is that lifelong commitment to working on always moving towards cultural responsiveness and cultural humility, because it's not really a destination.
Oh, I love that. And I have a couple. Well, actually, the second part is just more of kind of a call to action for folks in academia. But my first one is the reflection. Really embrace that. Now, again, my training taught me reflective practice. So in the supervisory relationship, I create time and space for it. Not just happenstance reflection, but really creating time and space for the supervisee and the supervisor to reflect. Reflective conversations, just reflecting about what's happening, what's going on within the relationship. That's one thing. And then I thought, because I do think the book is so good, I'm hoping that if it's not being done already, that this book can be implemented via a co-teaching model across disciplines. So when folks adopt this book, that it's adopted by education departments, it's adopted by behavior analysis departments, it's adopted by social work, speech and language pathology, because I think that's one of the ways we can start shifting culture in our field, is by really thinking outside the box about how we prepare pre-certificates. So really, I'm hoping that this book is beyond just behavior analysis. And
you just got a job as our new marketing agent. Bam!
Right. Plus, also, we have talked about creating a version of the book that, would be more broadly applicable in human services,
Yes.
multiple fields, taking out some of the specifics about our own, let's say, task list, ethics code, etc. And when we do that, we're probably going to need you to come on as a co-author.
I'm there.
And work out with us how we're going to do this. So, well, let me just thank you one last time, Nasiah, for joining us. And I want to point people to your great efforts. You not only have your CEO, of course, of your Ulezi company, sorry,
Yes.
but
It's
also this new effort, Pivot to Inclusion,
Yes.
and then the brand newer effort.
Yes.
So I know it's been a busy year for you, Shaping Leaders.
Yes.
So for all you listeners out there, if you're looking for a way to get started to support some of these efforts for an increased embracing of equity, diversity, inclusion, cultural responsiveness, please check out Nasiah's good work, her written work, her spoken work, and the services offered by these organizations.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody. This has been amazing.
I just want to add that folks should also be reading the article titled Black Women and Barriers to Leadership in ABA that was published in Behavior Analysis and Practice by Nasiah. It is a lovely article, and it's a great starter. Like for me, there should be 5, 6, 7 articles that sort of follow from this. Nasiah, it has been an honor as always. I'm always learning from you. I'm always humbled by you. And you are the kind of person in physical settings that I want to elbow people out of the way to get as close to stand next to, so that I can experience the warmth and light that you share. So thank you so much.
Thank you. You guys have an amazing, amazing day. Thank you so much.
You as well. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.